Hey, what's going on, everybody out there? I am Brian, host of the YouTube and Facebook page Brian Speaks On. And for those who already know what the concept of Brian Speaks On is, you already know what to expect. But for those who are just here for the first time or just scrolling by and catching this randomly, I am somebody who likes to talk about a myriad of subjects. Usually what I try to do is I try to use a specific platform to jump into a much broader topic. This topic is more singular today, but it's something that a lot of people have been asking me about. A few people encouraged me to make this video because I honestly wasn't going to make it because of my own cynicism on a personal level, but I've been doing a lot of researching and listening to a lot of programs regarding this, and I just figured, you know what, I think that I would be able to make this video and it be objective and not subjective according to, to my personal cynicism. So the topic is the Electoral College and how it breaks down and why it doesn't work. But I think we all see that it doesn't work based on what just happened on the 8th. Remember the 8th of November. Kept trying to tell people. But again, this is not about me and my personal cynicism. This is about the Electoral College. So a lot of people are very flummoxed as to how the Electoral College works. The minutia of it, just the whole purpose of it now, and it's understandable because the more that I studied up on it, the more that I realized that it's just kind of like a system that it doesn't really have a basis of strong foundation anymore, and at some certain points there is like this room for freestyling that really shouldn't exist when it comes to appointing a president. But let me try to delve into that and break it down into a very simplistic way as best as I can. The Electoral College is basically a system where each state gets a representative on both sides, being one Republican, one Democrat. Those two people, one on each side, kind of gets to be the state's representative of each party. Now, the Electoral College, when it was originally made, it was made before there was an official Republican and Democratic Party. This is where things get skewed because now that we have these two parties, the parties control the electors. So the electors essentially in the end get to choose who the president is going to be. Now, if you have two people, one on each side, who is very much biased towards one or the other candidate, then you can have situations where things can go left that really, and it goes against what the people want. This specific election is almost like that, but not quite. Again, a lot of this stuff gets muddled. Now, when you have two people per state, when that state basically wins the majority vote within that state, they are anointed the electoral votes. Now, the electoral votes differ in number according to things like the size of the state and the populace within it. So states with lesser people living in it get less votes. That's why you see certain electoral votes will be like 4, and you see some like 30 in one shot. So basically what happened was Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, meaning more people voted to elect Hillary Clinton as president than anyone else, than Trump. Problem was that Trump won the states that gave out the most electoral votes in one shot. So basically, Hillary was winning all the 3s and 4s, and Trump won all the 20s and 30s. So, but he didn't win all of them, I should say. Let me reiterate that. He basically won the majority of the bigger number electoral states. Like Hillary Clinton won probably the biggest ones, like California and New York. You know, the metropolises of, you know, of the country, and those states that house those metropolises, except for Chicago, basically. But anyway, we have to get a little bit more intricate as far as where your vote counts and where it doesn't count. Now, people keep asking, you know, like there's this back and forth going amongst people where a lot of people are saying, well, my vote doesn't count, and a lot of people are saying your vote does count. You shouldn't not vote because everybody's vote counts. After doing all of this looking and researching and reading, I've come to learn that the answer to that question, does your vote count, is, well, it depends. It depends where you live. You know, pretty much. So the way it works is that, let's go with what we know. When you look at an Electoral College map, you always see the red and the blue, and then you see the gray. Your vote pretty much does not count in any hard line red or blue state, because those electorates are dead set in who they're going to choose. Those things can change, but they don't change often at all. Like New York, for example, is a hardline blue Democratic state. So it just becomes somewhat of a prerequisite result that New York is going to vote Democrat. And with that in mind, it basically is already linked towards the electoral vote becoming a Democratic vote. So if you're, say, a Republican living in New York, voting for a Republican is tantamount to throwing away your vote. It makes no difference in the end result process, because you're not going to win that state. And the same thing applies in reverse. Like if you're in a hard red state like South Carolina or something like that, and you're a Democrat, your vote is not going to decide that state. It's not going to go Democrat. It's going to go Republican, because the hard line majority goes that route. So in that situation, your vote does not count. Your vote does count in battleground states. That is where that is where the count every vote matters theory is real. You have to go hard in battleground states to win that state. And as you've seen with what just passed, the majority of those battleground states went to Trump. And therein lies the paradox, because when those states won, everybody else's vote pretty much became non-void. And that's where the dilemma lies. So with that, I was listening to a radio program called Democracy Now!, which is something that I strongly urge everyone should listen to. It's available on streaming radio. You can find it on websites like WBAI Radio, where they broadcast from, Pacifica Radio. I'm pretty sure they have their own specific website. There's a streaming app you can get on most smart TVs. If you have a Roku or a Chrome TV or a Fire Stick or what have you, there's an app called TuneIn, TuneIn, where you can stream these programs. This one specifically, it's nonpartisan radio. It doesn't go one way or the other. They blow each side up because they do not operate on sponsorships of any kind. It's strictly public radio. It's like PBS on the radio, to where like they're always having these donation drives and stuff like that, because it is actually funded by people. It's not funded by any company, any sponsors whatsoever. I listen to this radio station constantly because of that. I don't listen to mainstream media anymore. I listen to that. But anyway, so on this program, the host Amy Goodman had a gentleman by the name of John Kosa, who's the chairman of the National Popular Vote, and he breaks down the Electoral College origin, purpose of it, well, what it was initially, what it's become, the flaws of it, and he introduces news of something that is something that we could really possibly look forward to correcting the Electoral College. Something that can happen as early as 2020. And I'm going to play the clips of him speaking on this. So please listen, please listen closely to what he has to say. I'm going to play excerpts from the show, which came on last Thursday. You can listen to these podcasts on the Democracy Now! Within the archives of the website. I personally go to the WBAI website and I listen to these replays. They have, I think the archives last for about 30 days from the date of the show. So you can listen for yourself, encourage others to listen. It's stuff like this that we need to be educated on, because our futures are, not just our present, but the future for our next generations of young ones are in a balance when it comes to stuff like this, and we need to take this stuff more seriously. We need to stop just being apathetic and allowing things to just continue as they are. We are voting away our liberties, our civil liberties. God knows how many we just voted away. The ones that voted for Trump, I should say. But we're not aware enough of what's really at stake. We're looking at things from a general viewpoint, but we're not really studying people and researching what's being proposed and what's in the balance, the little things that wind up becoming things later on that you realize, oh wow, I didn't realize we no longer have the right to do this, or there's a law against this now, But anyway, here's the breakdown from the show last Thursday.
Is the chair of National Popular Vote, consulting professor at Stanford University in computer science and electrical engineering. Koza is the former CEO of Scientific Games. Welcome to Democracy Now!, John. Can you please explain what has happened? A lot of people, I think, are scratching their heads. I still don't think most people understand the Electoral College. What do you mean Hillary Clinton is winning by hundreds of thousands of votes right now? Of course, all the votes haven't been counted, but she still lost.
Well, thank you, Amy. The problem comes from state laws that award all of the state's electoral votes to the candidate who gets the most popular votes inside each particular state. So the fact that Donald Trump got 1% more of the popular vote in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan meant that he got all of those electoral votes, and that constitutes his winning margin in the Electoral College, even though he's behind in the nationwide popular vote among the people of all 50 states.
Explain how the Electoral College votes, and this call Lady Gaga is making. Explain what it is she's calling for electors to do and who these electors are, who will not exactly personally meet, but will cast their votes in December.
Well, the electors are generally activists of their political party. So Donald Trump at the moment is going to get at least 279 of the 538 electors. those 279 people are active Republicans, either office holders, former office holders, party officials, maybe donors, people who are very devoted to the Republican Party. And there's very little history that indicates that any more than 0 or 1 of these 279 electors would ever deviate from their party's nominee. So when the Electoral College meets on December 19th, Donald Trump will probably get 100% of the 279 Republicans who are committed to vote for him.
Well, isn't it possible, given the reality that the Electoral College basically prejudices the smaller states, because every state has at least 2 senators, and some of them just have 1 congressman or 2 congressmen versus California and New York or the others, so they obviously have a disproportionate share. Isn't it possible that we may be entering an era of more of this, because we're now facing the fact that 6 out of the 8 last presidential elections were won, the Democrats won the popular vote, but they only won 4 of the 8 actual Electoral College votes. Now, we've had 2 of these now over the last couple of decades. And given the increasing concentration of populations in some of these big states, that we may be facing more of this in presidential elections to come.
Well, we're definitely going to have more of this because we're in an era of relatively close presidential elections. In the last 8 consecutive elections, the average nationwide margin has been 5% or less. So we can expect, if that trend continues, to see the Electoral College producing a different winner than the national popular vote. And that, I think, is a fairly safe prediction.
I want to clarify when I talked about...
All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to another part that is very crucial in the explanation of this whole system and the proposal that's currently in effect. Well, it's in effect for all the states. Only some of them have chosen to adopt this as of currently, but it's something that they're trying to push to it's something that they're trying to push for all states to jump on, and hopefully it'll be a game changer for what we're trying to accomplish in this whole electoral voting process game. Now, going back to what he was just saying, a lot of people are wondering how could Hillary win the popular vote by as much as she did. I'm hearing it's almost damn near 2 million votes that she won by. Now, it's, again, you have some states where it's like, once the state is decided, anything that goes on top of that doesn't serve any purpose. The state has already been decided. Now, I made a video not too long ago talking about how we should learn how to exercise the strategic value of our vote. And I was speaking more specific to black people. But it could really apply to everybody. Now, one of the issues that we have is that we only have a Republican and a Democrat to choose from. Most people want a third party. Had you had the strategic thought process in some of these hardline states where your vote wasn't going to make a difference once the state was already decided, you could have done something a little more strategic, which is what I did actually on a personal level. You could have used your vote for a third party candidate. They were trying to look to get 5% of either the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. Had one or both of them gotten 5% of the national vote, they would have been more eligible as a legitimate third party in the next campaign. They would have received federal funding to fund their campaigns on a national level. That is the importance of understanding how to work your vote and work your voice and work your power. Again, if you're in a state that's not not a battleground state. It's a hardline state. It's already decided. It's already predetermined who's going to get those electoral votes. And you're not feeling either candidate. You could have used that vote to vote for a third person to try to add to that pot of having more choices. Because the problem is the way that this system is set up. They're going to try to give you the people that they want, you know. And how could two nationally and internationally, you know, repugnant choices be the only two choices? You know, there has to be some form of manipulation that played a part into that, and that goes with the media, that goes with, you know, propaganda, with statistics and things of that nature, and not giving certain people airtime and giving other people all the airtime. There's a lot. There are a lot of ways that they play this to steer you into certain directions. Now, if you have more choices, that kind of, you know, it kind of plays into eliminating those problems. So next time, next election, just consider that possibility. If you're not feeling either candidate and you know that your state is decided already, you can use your vote in a more strategic manner. It's just something I want to throw out there. Now, we're going to get back to this gentleman, Mr. Kosa's breakdown of the Electoral College system and the new proposal that's coming up.
Now, what happens in December? People, how do they meet? They don't physically meet, right, Professor Kosa?
He's about to break down the way that the Electoral
College
go
to their state capitals,
disseminates their votes in December.
The 20 Trump electors that were elected Tuesday in Pennsylvania will all go to Harrisburg, and they will all dutifully cast their personal electoral vote for Donald Trump, and he'll end up with 279 of the 538 electors, and therefore he'll become president.
But they don't all meet together from all over the country. So explain how the Electoral College came into place and talk about what you are advocating for, national popular vote.
Well, the Electoral College is probably outdated. It certainly is not what the founders intended. They intended an aristocratic group, small group of noblemen, basically, who would wisely decide who the president is. That went out the window in 1796 in the nation's first competitive presidential election. The problem we have with the Electoral College is not the existence of the Electoral College, it's the state winner-take-all laws that give all of a state's electors to the candidate who gets a bare plurality of the vote inside that particular state. So the fact that Trump carried Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan by a hair, even though he was losing the people's vote across the country in all 50 states, means that he gets all of the electors from those three states. Now, under the national popular vote proposal, which is now law in 11 states, those states, when we have enough states that have a majority of the electors, that is 270, those laws go into effect, and they will award all of those electors to the candidate who gets the most popular votes in all 50 states, and that's what would guarantee the White House to the candidate who gets the most popular votes in all 50 states. Now, this legislation is already law in 11 states having 165 electoral votes. It needs states with 105 more electoral votes to become law in time for the 2020 election.
And John Kosa, what states do you see as most likely or the most fertile area to be able to reach that 105 target now that you need?
Well, in the last few years, this proposal has become quite bipartisan. So, for example, the latest state legislative chamber to pass this proposal was the Arizona House, where 2/3 of the Republicans and 2/3 of the Democrats sponsored the bill. It also passed recently in the Oklahoma Senate, and the Republican-controlled New York Senate. So in the last couple of years, there's been increasing bipartisan support from both parties to change the system. And the real motivation for the change it was not primarily this issue of whether the candidate with fewer votes ends up in the White House, although that's very, very important, obviously, but the fact that most of the states are ignored in the presidential campaign. Virtually all of the presidential campaign that ended Tuesday was conducted in just 12 states, and that was the same in 2012. 100% of the campaign events in 2012 after the nominating conventions were in just 12 states. Governor Walker put it very bluntly about a year ago when he said the nation as a whole is not going to elect the next president. 12 states are. So the biggest single problem with the current system is that most of the country is really politically irrelevant in selecting the president. Then on top of it, when the 12 states that matter vote, the candidate who gets fewer popular votes nationwide can end up president. So all in all, it's an entirely bad system, but it's a system that is based solely on state law and can be changed by changing these state laws.
Now you hear that? This can be changed. It can be rectified. What needs to be done is for those states that have not adopted the national popular vote proposal, you need to check your within your state, I guess either within with your senator or governor, and see about making a push for them to get on board with this proposal and basically sign that agreement to where they will use their electorates to forego their vote, their electoral votes, given this scenario again where a person wins the electoral nominees but is not winning the popular vote. If the popular vote person wins, then these states which get down with this proposal agree to forego and forfeit their electoral votes to the person that won the popular vote. So under this guise, the popular choice will basically win, given this this conundrum if it happens again, which more than likely will. So therein lies the proposed solution. So I hope that this helped, clear a couple of things with you, and it's still, like I said, there's still a lot of room for a lot of freestyling, and I don't really feel that. Like, an electoral candidate is not beholden unto the party in which it's supposed to be representing either. If that electoral voter chooses to vote contrary to the people who he's supposed to be beholden unto, or she, they can do that. They can say, yeah, I'm not feeling who y'all wanted me to vote for, I'm switching sides. They could do that and not be held accountable. So it's stuff like that you can't have things like that when you're trying to decide the president. That shouldn't fly. And again, I hope that this information helped you. This was a very long video, and I hope for everybody that actually took time to listen, I hope it helped you out. And to those that wanted me to make this video, I hope this suffices. And I'll catch you next Brian Speaks On. I got a few more that I need to make because Lord knows there's plenty to talk about. All right, be blessed, be safe, peace.